Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and wonderful learners of English. My name is Professor Rich, and today we'll be learning about... Oh, I had this ready, and now I don't know if I have this ready. How did I manage to mess up my intro again? This is like something I just can't help but not do. So let me do that again, everybody. Today, we will be learning about the mystery of Percy Fawcett, lost in the Amazon. All right. Did you hear that? Let me know in the chat if the volume is okay and you can hear everything all right. I'm not seeing chat come up on my usual system, which is wonderful. So let me just fix that little problem. How is everybody doing today? I'm going to start us off with a little bit of vocabulary. Let's just consider being excited. We'll think about the adjective excited. And what you can see here is you can see some other words to mean excited. And they range from not excited, quite excited, all the way to really, really excited. I'd like you to put them in the correct place on the scale so you can see that relaxed actually means not excited, right? If you're relaxed, then you're not excited. So I would like you to put the other words there in the correct place, 1, 2, or 3 on the scale, and I'll read those now for our audio listeners. So the words are... gripped, eager, enthralled, interested, encapsulated, chilled out, calm, exhilarated. Okay, I'll read those again. Gripped, eager, enthralled, curious, interested, chilled out, calm, exhilarated, encapsulated. Hello there, Manuel. Flavie says, do you take risks? So I did do a little bit of a poll just before we started the stream, and 71% of people enjoy a bit of risk. Your life is too easy. I used to say that I enjoy a bit of risk, and then I experienced some difficult times, really difficult times, and there are some difficult times going on right now. And actually, I think I've decided I don't. I don't like any risk. I want zero risk in my life. I've had enough. Take it all away. I want calm, relaxation, zero risk. Thank you, thank you. So Ashley Chen says that chilled out and calm are in number 1. And I think that's right, Ashley. So let's put those there. So we got relaxed, chilled out, and calm in number 1. Sleepwalker coming in with some answers there, saying that number 2, curious, enthralled, interested. Oh, I'm not sure about enthralled. So for number 2, quite excited. Yes, I agree with curious. Curious. Listen to the pronunciation there. Curious. Curious. You actually have 2 options for this. You've got curious with the phoneme or, curious, or you can use the diphthong and say curious. So curious or curious. Both of those are acceptable ways to pronounce that. Curious, curious. Then we have interested. Now, with the pronunciation for that, Do notice that notice the stress, interested. It's on the first syllable, interested, not interested. Okay, that's not English. Interested is incorrect. We don't say that. That's wrong. So the pronunciation is interested. And then for number 3, gripped, eager, enthralled, and encapsulated. Probably eager is somewhere between 2 and 3, actually. And then, and exhilarated. So for number 3, we have gripped, enthralled, encapsulated, and exhilarated. There are our answers. So we're just starting off with some vocabulary for excitement. And now, let's get into our story for today. It's a view which inspires a sense of wanderlust. Take a look at that picture. And the sentence again says, it's a view which inspires a sense of wanderlust. It's a view which inspires a sense of wanderlust. But what is wanderlust? Type your own definition in the chat. What is wanderlust? What exactly is wanderlust? Wanderlust. It's an interesting bit of vocabulary. Comes from German, actually. Wanderlust. Wanderlust. But we have the word in English because actually lots of words in English come from German, because English is a Germanic language. So we have this word wanderlust. Inspires a sense of wanderlust. So Ranit says that it's the internal force that drives a person to explore the world, typically associated with positive feelings. That's a bit of a good definition, Ranit. Is that your definition? Notice it says type your definition in the chat. Is that your definition? It's pretty good. It's really good, actually. Zoya says that it's a desire for adventure. I think that's more or less what I would say, Zoya. So that is also a very good definition, and the kind of thing that I would say, actually, about wanderlust. It's that desire for adventure. It's the desire to travel. It's that, I just need to get out there and have some adventure. So lust is desire, and wander, as we know, is like leaving your house and going out there. Ranit has confessed. They found it in the dictionary. Okay. I thought so, because it was a very good definition, actually. A view which inspires a sense of wanderlust. So we're going to look at a story today, talking about someone who really does have a great sense of wanderlust. Someone, an adventurer, actually, an explorer, someone who wants to get out there and see the world and explore. But before we have a look at that story, let's take a look at some more vocabulary from the story. So we're going to look at some difficult words in the story, match those words to the synonyms and definitions. So here you have on the left a list of some of the difficult words from the story. Now I would like you to just match those to the synonyms or definitions on the right. And I will read out those terms now. So number 1, we've got wanderlust. Number 2, perilous. Number 3, embark on. Number 4, venture. Number 5, daring. Number 6, expedition. And number 7, uncharted. And I want you to match those to A, dangerous, B, a place which isn't known, C, a journey with a specific goal, D, prepared to take risks, E, desire to travel, F, go forward in a confident manner, G, start a journey. And I'll just read the terms one more time. So number 1, wanderlust, noun. Number 2, perilous, adjective. Number 3, embark on, verb. Number 4, venture, verb. Number 5, daring, adjective. Number 6, expedition, noun. And number 7, uncharted, adjective. So we have our answers coming in from the chat, and I'm going to go through the answers right now. If you're watching this video later on YouTube, make sure you do, of course, smash that like button and hit subscribe. And you can pause the video if you're not quite ready to hear the answers yet. So we'll take a look at Zoya's answers. She's got the full set, so we'll take a look here. So wanderlust, E, is a desire to travel. That's correct. Well done, Zoya. Number 2, perilous is dangerous. Correct. Good job. Looking good. Number 3, embark on. G, start a journey. Correct. It's looking really good. 4, venture. F, go forward in a confident manner. That's correct. 5, daring. She's gone for D, prepared to take risks. That's correct. And number 6, expedition. And Zoya said, C, a journey with a specific goal, and that's correct, which means that number 7 is indeed a place which is not known, uncharted. Well done, Zoya, you got everything correct. And also well done to Sleepwalker, who also seems to have everything correct. And well done to everyone else who participated. So you can see on the board there some of the difficult vocabulary from today. Before I continue with the story, does anyone have any questions about the vocabulary on your screen? You can ask those questions now if you have any specific questions. If you're live in the chat, you can ask a question about any of those words on the screen. I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, we will continue. Sleepwalker points out different answers for 4 and 5. Yeah, I think that Zoya's answer's correct there, Sleepwalker, unfortunately. But nice try. Not bad to only get 1 incorrect. You could certainly say that daring is about being confident. However, venture certainly means to go forward. So venture, you might be prepared to take risks, but it certainly means that you go forward. Pallavi says, can you explain the vocabulary more, please? Last one. When you say last one, do you mean number 7, uncharted? So uncharted comes from the idea of charting. And charting, as a verb, in the old sense, means making a map. So when we chart a location, if we chart a territory or chart the land or chart an island, what we're doing is mapping it. We could also chart an unexplored building or chart some caves. And that would mean making a map of the caves or the building. So it's sort of the older use of chart, because in modern English, we often use chart to mean like graphs and diagrams, don't we? Like we talk about, look at the chart, look at this chart. And normally we mean graphs of data and information. However, in the older sense, chart means to like make a map. And we can still use it like that today. So when we say uncharted, we actually mean not mapped. Okay, so I have a question for you. Do you know this guy? This is Percy Fawcett. The mystery of Percy Fawcett. That's right. This is Percy Fawcett. The real Indiana Jones. Dun, dun, dun. So this guy, real classic British adventurer, as you can see, he looks quite like a classic British adventurer to me, especially on the right with the moustache and style. Looks very kind of British gentleman explorer. And then on the left, you have the kind of Indiana Jones look. So you're going to hear the introduction to the story. And I'd like you to answer these 3 questions. So we're going to listen, and you need to answer these 3 questions. And those questions are, who was he? What did he want to find? And what happened to him? Who was he? What did he want to find? And what happened to him? Good evening to you, Free from Cage, who says, good evening, teacher. Who was Percy Fawcett? What did he want to find? And what happened to him? Okay, let's listen to the first part of the story. The mystery of Percy Fawcett, lost in the Amazon. Percy Fawcett was a British explorer with a great sense of wanderlust. He loved to travel and discover new places. In 1925, he set out on a perilous journey into the Amazon rainforest. He believed there was a lost city, which he called the City of Zed. Fawcett hoped to find this city and prove that advanced civilizations once lived deep in the jungle. He embarked on his final expedition with his son Jack and Jack's friend. The group was last seen near the Xingu River. After that, they vanished. Many people tried to find them later on, but no one could figure out what happened. To this day, it remains a mystery. There are 3 main ideas about what might have happened to Fawcett and his team. Okay, everybody, so answers in the chat. Who was Percy Fawcett? What did he want to find, and what happened to him? And while you guys put your answers in the chat, I think we'll listen once more to that. So I'll just play that once more. The mystery of Percy Fawcett, lost in the Amazon. Percy Fawcett was a British explorer with a great sense of wanderlust. He loved to travel and discover new places. In 1925, he set out on a perilous journey into the Amazon rainforest. He believed there was a lost city, which he called the City of Zed. Fawcett hoped to find this city and prove that advanced civilizations once lived deep in the jungle. He embarked on his final expedition with his son Jack and Jack's friend. The group was last seen near the Xingu River. After that, they vanished. Many people tried to find them later on, but no one could figure out what happened. To this day, it remains a mystery. There are 3 main ideas about what might have happened to Fawcett and his team. Okay. All right. So, answers from Sleepwalker. Number 1, who was he? He was a British explorer. Ding, ding, ding. Well done. Correct. What did he want to find? Number 2, he wanted to find a lost city. Now, do we have the name of that city? Zoya said a lost city called Zed. That's right. So he wanted to find a lost city called Zed. What happened to him? He embarked on an expedition and then disappeared. Now, the question is, what happened after that? What happened after that? Free from Cage says he got lost in the Amazon. Shimi says he vanished. Well, there are actually 3 theories as to what happened to him. These are the 3 main theories of what happened. Number 1 is that he was killed by indigenous people. That means native people, native South Americans, Aboriginal, indigenous people, local tribes, tribes in the jungle, etc. So the idea that he was killed by one of those tribes. The second theory is that he died of natural causes. In other words, starvation, heat stroke, or maybe some sort of accident. And the third theory is that he stayed in the jungle. Stayed in the jungle. So by choice, him, his son, and his son's friend decided to stay and remain in the jungle, maybe living in a tribe. Maybe they all got married and they had wives in the tribe and they stayed and lived on. So what do you think happened? Which of those 3 options do you think is most likely? Which one do you think is correct? What happened here? Which one do you think happened and why? Well, Manuel says that he must have stayed in the jungle because he was reckless. And Zoya said he must have died of natural causes because it was a tough trip. But Sleepwalker said he could have been killed, or he could have died due to some kind of illness. Pallavi says he might have died of natural causes, or while returning back, or while exploring the jungle. He might have died. Well done, Pallavi. Pallavi actually using the modal with the past there, the modal form with the past, might have died. So he corrected herself as well with he. He might have died of natural causes. That's a nice bit of grammar there, using the past modal for deduction. He might have died. Good job. And Sleepwalker said he had a family, right? So his wife waited for him until her death. That's correct. That's quite sad, isn't it? He did have a wife, and I think he had a daughter at home. So his son, remember his son was with him. So him and his son's friend were in the jungle. But his wife was back home, and his daughter, his son's sister. So they all disappeared, Shimi. All 3. The whole expedition. The whole party of explorers. They all disappeared. I do believe he had a daughter back home, a baby daughter, Sleepwalker. I'm not 100%, but I think so. Granit, also using the advanced grammar of modals for deduction in the past, says he might have stayed with indigenous people and got married. Why not? Yeah, maybe he didn't want a daughter. Maybe his wife was annoying. So he decided he was going to stay in the jungle. Maybe the tribe forced him to. They said, listen, you 3 men, we have too many women in our tribe and we need 3 men. So you're going to marry these women and stay in the tribe. And if you don't like it, then we'll cut your head off. It's possible. Free from Cage says he might not have died of natural causes because him and his son both could not have died by disease or accident. Now, I think that's a good point, Free from Cage. And I think when you're talking about diseases and accidents, you do have a point. that him and his son, it's quite unusual that him and his son's friend would all die of this accident. However, they might have run out of food. So if they ran out of food, well, they would all die of starvation, right? So I think the main theory about dying of natural causes is that they ran out of food. Well, we're going to listen to the next part of the story. And I'd like you to listen for the arguments for and against each opinion, each option. So what arguments do you hear for or against each of these options, okay? And the options are, was he A, killed by indigenous people? B, did he die of natural causes? Or C, did he stay in the jungle? What arguments do you hear in the recording, in the audio, for each of those options? Okay? Killed by indigenous people, died of natural causes, stayed in the jungle. What arguments do you hear for or against each of those? Let's listen. Some believe the group was attacked by local tribes. Many of these tribes were suspicious of outsiders and wanted to protect their land. However, Fawcett was daring and respectful whenever he met indigenous people. Some tribes even helped him during his earlier trips. This makes others think that violence was not the answer. The Amazon is a dangerous place. It's easy to get lost in its uncharted areas. Many explorers died from disease, hunger, or animal attacks. Fawcett and his team might have run out of food or gotten sick. Even though Fawcett was experienced, the jungle was still a tough challenge, and this may well have been how he died. Another idea is that Fawcett found a tribe and decided to stay with them. He was fascinated by indigenous cultures and might have chosen to live a simple life. Some stories say a man like Fawcett lived with a tribe for many years. But there is no strong or concrete evidence to prove this theory. Okay, so what arguments did you hear for or against each of those theories in the recording? You can type those in the chat now. What arguments did you hear for or against the theories? You can type those in the chat now. So for killed by indigenous people, we have the argument for was that the tribes were suspicious, which is Zoya's put here. The tribes were suspicious of outsiders and wanted to protect their land. However, argument against, Fawcett was respectful. Tribes helped him. So he was respectful. Tribes helped him. Maybe that didn't happen. Okay, then we have died of natural causes. So many explorers die from disease, hunger, and animal attacks. We know that. We know that many explorers die from those things. So it seems like something that could happen. Argument against, he was experienced. He was experienced. But then it is the jungle, and the jungle's really tough. Number 3, he decided to stay in the jungle. Well, we know that he was very fascinated, very interested, extremely fascinated by indigenous tribes. So it is something that he really enjoyed. I mean, if you imagine, if you're someone who really enjoys Roman history and you could take a time machine and go and join the Roman civilization in 200 BC, maybe you would. So that's a possibility. However, in addition, another argument for is that there are stories. This is so fascinating, isn't it? There are stories of a man like Fawcett who lived in the jungle with tribes. So there are stories, maybe stories from other tribes in the area, telling stories about these strange kind of pale-skinned European people living with the tribe. So that makes it really fascinating. However, argument against is there's no strong evidence. So there's no strong evidence for it. Okay, so they are the arguments for and against. Now, we're going to just listen to everything again. And do you remember there were 7 difficult vocabulary terms from the start of class? Don't look, don't cheat, but there were 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of vocabulary, 7 words from the start of the class. We're going to listen, and as you hear those words, I want you to type them in the chat. I think there's only 6 in the recording, but just listen, and the words you hear from the start of class, type them in the chat when you hear them in the recording. So when you hear the words in the recording, type them in the chat, okay? All right, so let's listen to everything again, and type the words in the chat as you hear them. The Mystery of Percy Fawcett, Lost in the Amazon. Percy Fawcett was a British explorer with a great sense of wanderlust. He loved to travel and discover new places. In 1925, he set out on a perilous journey into the Amazon rainforest. He believed there was a lost city, which he called the City of Zed. Fawcett hoped to find this city and prove that advanced civilizations once lived deep in the jungle. He embarked on his final expedition with his son Jack and Jack's friend. The group was last seen near the Xingu River. After that, they vanished. Many people tried to find them later on, but no one could figure out what happened. To this day, it remains a mystery. There are 3 main ideas about what might have happened to Fawcett and his team. Some believe the group was attacked by local tribes. Many of these tribes were suspicious of outsiders and wanted to protect their land. However, Fawcett was daring and respectful whenever he met indigenous people. Some tribes even helped him during his earlier trips. This makes others think that violence was not the answer. The Amazon is a dangerous place. It's easy to get lost in its uncharted areas. Many explorers died from disease, hunger, or animal attacks. Fawcett and his team might have run out of food or gotten sick. Even though Fawcett was experienced, the jungle was still a tough challenge, and this may well have been how he died. Another idea is that Fawcett found a tribe and decided to stay with them. He was fascinated by indigenous cultures and might have chosen to live a simple life. Some stories say a man like Fawcett lived with a tribe for many years. But there is no strong or concrete evidence to prove this theory. Okay, so we did actually have almost all of them. I think the only word we didn't have was venture. All of the other words from before we had: wanderlust, perilous, embark on, daring, expedition, and uncharted. I don't think we had venture. We can just quickly check the script here. So wanderlust, perilous, embark on an expedition. There it is in the script. And then in the second script, during and uncharted. That's right. So we had everything apart from venture. Fantastic. All right. So just talking about that, what do we think really happened? I think probably, realistically, they starved. They probably got lost deep in the jungle and were unable to find a way out and didn't have food. It's quite difficult, actually, to find food in the jungle. You might think, oh, come on, the jungle, trees, fruit. Actually, I think a lot of things are poisonous for human consumption. And I think it is very dangerous, actually, to go deep into the jungle. So I think probably the most likely is that they starved to death. Of course, we don't know because they were never found. Although, honestly, that is not unusual. It is quite difficult to find people's remains in the jungle. And there are numerous stories of people who go into the jungle and we never see them again. So that probably is what really happened. But you can find more information about Percy Fawcett by Googling and doing a bit of research in English about it. Now, let's focus on some of the vocabulary from today. And I would like you to think about what the word means. And I want you to write an example of using that word. And I'd like you to be specific. So, if I give the word teacher, then don't write a sentence like, a teacher is someone who teaches. Or a teacher helps us learn. That's very general. So we want something specific, like teacher is the person in the class who gives homework to students and organizes the class, right? And if we had a word like excited, then you don't say, I feel excited because something exciting happened, or I feel excited because something surprising and interesting happened. No, be specific. I feel excited because I've won the lottery, or I feel excited because I've got a new job with loads of money. Okay? So try to be specific about your examples. Okay, so the first word is expedition. I'd like you to type an example in the chat and try to be specific about your example. So expedition, how could you use that in an example sentence? How could you use that on an example sentence? That's a great example from Zoya. They trained hard for more than a year to get ready for an expedition to the North Pole. Perfect. Bingo. They trained hard for more than a year to get ready for an expedition to the North Pole. Great. Going on an expedition to Everest requires you to prepare and be resilient. Nice. So the idea of it being Everest makes it specific there. Not just going on an expedition, but going on an expedition to Everest. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well done, folks. Let's have another. During. And if you are enjoying the class today, make sure that you smash that like button and hit subscribe. We do streams every Saturday. at 1 p.m. UK. You have to be daring to jump with a parachute. Well, yeah. If you jump out of a plane with a parachute, yeah. So maybe you have to be daring to go skydiving. He was so daring that no caution or advice from others would stop him from embarking on an adventure. Manuel says, "Are you there, Rich?" Yeah. What's happening, Manuel? Okay, and let me put all the rest of the words up there. And you can choose any of them that you want to give an example in the chat. Let me rephrase this for you, Julia. Julia says, I find myself no daring attitude when it comes to skydiving. Let me rephrase that. I don't think that I'm daring enough to go skydiving. I don't think that I'm daring enough to go skydiving. I'm just not quite daring enough to go skydiving. So the other words that we have there, uncharted, venture, embark on, perilous, and wanderlust. So you can choose any of those that you want to give an example in the chat. They stumbled upon an uncharted island in the ocean. We need a bit more specifics, I think, with that, Sleepwalker. So how about we add some context? Whilst traveling from Ireland to North America, the ship got lost and they stumbled upon an uncharted island in the ocean. How dare you to give you back? Slave, turn up and tell me your name. My name is Maximus. Dare I say to you that sometimes you are wrong? I have no idea what you're talking about, Manuel. But I think something about gladiator? Is it Spartacus or Gladiator? What are we going for? Our like-minded people set our mind to embark on traveling to the uncharted territory. Again, I think we need something a bit more specific there, Julia, because the uncharted territory, I mean, it's nice that we have embark on in there, but I want to know more about this uncharted territory. We found like-minded people to set out and embark on an expedition to an unexplored part of the world. We were going into uncharted territory. He was full of wanderlust and embarked on a perilous journey in the jungle. How dare you was swimming into the sea without Necroprino swimming pool. The water's frozen. When you're saying how dare you, Manuel, I think maybe you're misusing it a little. How dare you in English is something like what a nerve, or who do you think you are? when we say how dare you. It means something like that. So I think you're using that a little bit differently. Sleepwalker says, it was a perilous quest. We almost died of fear when the monster jumped out from behind the mirror. What was the quest, though? We were playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons. And we were on a perilous quest. We almost died of fear. We almost died of shock when the dungeon master's friend jumped out from behind a mirror with a monster mask. Julia says, I have a staunch wanderlust of traveling to the perilous journey. So I have a staunch wanderlust to travel on a perilous journey to the Amazon jungle one day. I have a staunch wanderlust to travel on a perilous journey to the Amazon jungle one day. Sleepwalker says, let's embark on our plan to improve our neighborhood. Oh, that's great. I love that. Well done. Good job for using a different context. Zoya says, a perilous time has come upon the world and you'll need to be daring to survive. Very good. Very good. Fantastic. We're not doing that. If you would like to take classes with me, you can. Send me an email to professorrich@gmail.com. That's professor, spelt with one S, because it's profesor means teacher in Spanish. And my brand is Professor Rich. So with one S, not two S's, like British English, or like English. And we are on question time now. If you would like to download the notes from today, you can. I will put those in the chats. And they will, just a moment, also be available down below the video. If you would like to support the channel, joining wonderful people such as Lolly, Sylvia, and of course, the greatest supporter of the channel, Manuel Gordillo, you can do by looking down below the video. And you can see there's a link that says Give Thanks to Rich, where you can buy me a coffee, or you can join the membership on YouTube. Just click the button that says Join, and there are some different options for you there. You don't really get anything for joining. You just get a little symbol by your name and, of course, my thanks. And you support the channel, meaning that I can justify doing these streams more. I don't really make any money from this at the moment. It's just for fun. There's a little bit of money for the occasional coffee, which I highly appreciate. And it does definitely help motivate me to put more into the streams and to do more. And if we get to the point where doing the streams is more profitable than classes, then we can increase the streams and increase the quality. But at the moment, it probably takes about 3 to 4 hours of work to do a stream. And the money I make from it is about 1/4 that I make from teaching a 1-hour class. So if you're good at maths, you realize that that means I'm earning about 1/16 for my time of streaming as I do from teaching. So it's just for fun. And of course, I'm not complaining about that because I enjoy doing it. But if you would like more and you would like to support the channel and support the project that we have here, then it is, of course, much appreciated. But you don't have to. I know that finances are tough. Believe me, I definitely know that we are in a tough financial situation. So I don't expect it. And you can, of course, enjoy these classes free forever. Or for as long as YouTube exists, certainly. So the notes are available now. And I will take any questions that you have about English, about the stream today, about education and learning in general. If you have any questions, please do go right ahead. If you would like the audios from today's class, they will be available on our Discord server. And you can join our Discord server by looking down below the video. There's a link that says join our community. And there you can join our Discord server. And on our Discord server, I often post extra materials. Including the audios from today's class. And from other classes. I don't check the Discord very frequently, but if you do post questions on there, I do my best to eventually answer them. And normally someone like Pallavi or Pavia or someone like that will tell me if someone's trying to get me on the Discord. So it is there. It is our community. And in the future, it may well become more active again. For the moment, it's not super active, but it will remain there. And it is our focal contact point. I know there is a Facebook page as well, but I don't use that. And I may well close that in the future. Discord is our community base outside of YouTube. Okay, so we have a question from Zoya who says, in the sentence, they lived there for a year and then left. The right answer is lived. They lived there for a year and then left, according to the book. But I think for a year calls for past continuous. What do you say? No, that's not the case, Zoya. I'm sorry to say that you're wrong about that one. And your English is very good and you're normally right about everything. So, but I have to tell you that that is not the case. You can indeed use for a year with the past simple. So, although there are tenses that we associate with using the preposition for in that way to talk about duration, there's not a limitation to it. So you can actually use for plus a duration with any tenses that you really would like to. So they lived there for a year and then left is fine. They were living there for a year and then left is also fine. They had lived for a year and then left is also fine. And they had been living there for a year and then left is also fine. So actually there are a lot of options for this which sound okay. And we could even use future if you want me to put those in as well. So we go from the future into the past. Actually, because it says, and then left, we can't use the future, can we? It has to be the past. So they lived there for a year. They were living there for a year. They had lived there for a year. And they had been living there for a year. And then left. So all of those are okay. And if we change it slightly, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That's from the previous class. Let's get rid of that. So if we change it slightly, we could also say they will be living there for a year. They will have lived there for a year. They will live there for a year. They are living there for a year. So we could use all those future ones. And after those, you'd have to say, they will be living there for a year. By the time they leave would be the second clause for that, for all of those. So they will be living there for a year by the time they leave. They will have lived there for a year by the time they leave. They will live there for a year by the time they leave. And they are living there for a year by the time they leave. And then we could have, could we say they live? They live there for a year. We could, it would be quite strange, but it is possible as well, where we say something like this. This is the 4-year cycle of the local bird population. They spend 3 years in northern England. Then they migrate south. They live there for a year and leave, going back to the north. So we can even do it with present simple as well. Use the same structure with the preposition for and a duration a year. Okay, I hope that helps, Sawyer. Let's move on to Free from Cage. What's the difference between he did work hard and he worked hard? Please do make clear if possible. Well, that's really interesting because in your question, Free from Cage, you've said, please do make clear. And you've actually used this special form. And the special form is called auxiliary for emphasis. So this is when we have a situation where an auxiliary is not normally used, but we add it in, then this can be for emphasis. So in this case, the normal situation for the past, the normal past simple is he worked hard. So that's what you will normally hear, right? When we talk about the past, we'll normally use, when we talk about the past in affirmation, we will normally use the past simple, just like that. He worked hard. However, you do have the option, notice I used it then, you do have the option, not you have the option, but you do have the option of adding an auxiliary for emphasis. He did work hard. And in this case, because we have the auxiliary, and the auxiliary takes the grammar form of the past, then after the auxiliary, we use the infinitive work. He did work hard. And this would be for emphasis. So when I say emphasis, there are different reasons to use emphasis. That might be for contrast, for unexpected information, or just to emphasize that it is did, not didn't. So these are the different reasons why you would emphasize. You want to contrast it, like she didn't work hard, but he did work hard. So you contrast him and her, and you contrast she didn't, he did. It could be unexpected, like he's really lazy, but yesterday he did work hard. So it's unexpected because, you know, he's lazy, but he did work hard yesterday. So it's that unexpected information. And then there could be the emphasis. So like, I worked hard yesterday. Sorry, what did you say? He didn't work hard? No, he did work hard. He did. So in that case, you're just saying, no, I mean the affirmation. Okay, so they're sort of some different reasons why we would use emphasis. But bear in mind that the most usual situation here is simply to use the past simple. So the most usual situation would be this one. He worked hard. And that's what you will hear most of the time in the past. Do not overuse auxiliaries for emphasis, because that would sound quite strange. Okay, Sleepwalker says, I'm used to it versus I got used to it. What's the difference? Well, you're talking about be used to and get used to. So be used to means it is normal for the subject, and get used to means the subject is becoming, no, it is becoming normal for the subject. So it's a process, isn't it? So I moved to Spain. The weather was so hot. I wasn't used to the weather. After several weeks, I got used to it. Then I was used to it. So you might say like, oh, it's so hot and I'm not used to this weather, but I'm getting used to it. So it is becoming normal for me. I'm getting used to it. And then eventually you say, okay, I'm used to it. Now, because you've actually said, I'm used to it and I got used to it in the past, those two things actually mean the same, but they come from a different perspective. Because I'm used to it now means it is normal for me. And I got used to it in the past means it became normal for me. So if something became normal for you in the past, of course that means it is normal for you now. Like, I became a teacher, I am a teacher. It became normal, it is normal. I got used to it, I am used to it. Everything says, what happened to Rich? He looks 10 years old. I'm just enjoying my youth while I can. I know that I very easily have the ability to look like an old man. That's quite easy for me to do. So I tell you what, why don't I just enjoy looking young for a while longer? And when I want to look like an old man, it's no problem. Let the beard grow for a few months and I can easily look like I'm 70 years old. No problem. So let's just enjoy a little bit of youth while I can. Also, my birthday's coming up. Maybe that's one of the reasons. Ryan says, hi Rich, to play football is better than to play cricket. Can I omit two after than? Is this, and then question two. So question one, to play football is better than to play cricket. So that's not correct in my opinion to say that. I would use the noun form of the verb, which is the gerund. So playing football, that's our noun form of the verb, is better than playing cricket. So that's how I would say that, using the noun form of the verb, which is the gerund. Okay? So your original sentence is wrong. So it's not about omitting to after that and all that. Forget all that. Playing football is better than playing cricket. That's it. And then question two, is this sentence correct? I will go to my house than going to the market. No, that's incorrect. I believe you mean I will go to my house, then go to the market. Which means I will go to my house and after I will go to the market. Okay, I hope that helps. After arriving, they lived there for a year. Okay, Manuel's still talking about that one. I think I'm a bit behind on the chats there. Migrate, not migrated. Migrate, not migrated. Oh, the birds. No, it's present simple. I'm giving an example using present simple. So the whole thing is in present simple because I'm talking about the habits of these birds over a 4-year cycle. And I was doing that to demonstrate the use of present simple with the prepositional phrase, prepositional phrase for a year or 4 plus duration. So yeah, it is migrate, not migrated. I don't think it's a narrative tense. I wouldn't call that a narrative tense. That's just present simple for habits. That's it. She was very tired, therefore she decided to go to bed early. When connecting two independent clauses, a semicolon is needed. Therefore, is it more common to put a semicolon or a full stop? It's interesting that, isn't it, Sleepwalker? So, first of all, it's not right to say that connecting... well, it is true that connecting two independent clauses needs something if you want to actually connect them other than using a full stop. So it needs something. Doesn't necessarily need a semicolon. There are other ways, but it needs something if you want to connect it and not use a full stop. However, people often use full stops. And actually, I think full stop is the most common. So if I say something like, that was good, however, I felt bad. So I actually think that that's the most common thing that you'll see when people write. However, you may prefer this. Now, which of these should you use? Well, it's your choice. And I use both. And I use both in the same piece of writing. So I've recently completed the second assignment of my second language acquisition model for the masters that I'm currently doing. And in that, I did both of these things. And it just depends. It depends. Do you want to have all these ideas in one sentence, or do you want to separate them? Ultimately, there's little difference in meaning. It's actually a bit more about feeling and also complication, because this second one is more complicated to digest. It's a bit more complicated for the mind because that was good and then, we're still on the same idea. However, I felt bad. Okay. So there's a bit more complexity going on. So it is worth considering that if you've got something that goes on and on and on and on and on, you might think this is getting a bit complicated. Then maybe the best idea is to full stop, let the brain take a rest and go to the next sentence. However, because it still works as an idea, we can start a sentence with however, that's okay. Or what did you use? Therefore, same idea, right? We can start a sentence with therefore, it's okay. But on the other hand, maybe we want the extra complexity. Maybe we don't want to be too simple, right? Academic writing, you don't always want very simple, short sentences. You could do that, couldn't you? I mean, we could take a very high academic paper and rewrite the whole thing in simple, short sentences. But maybe we don't want that. Maybe we want to add complexity. So then you put in the semicolon and do it like that. But both of those are possible. However, I would say that this one is more common. The full stop is more common. But personally, I like the second one. I'm a fan of semicolons. I'm a semicolon fan. Ryan says, which one is correct? He doesn't like my working hard, or he doesn't like my hard work. It's the second one. He doesn't like my hard work. The only thing I can think of relating to the first one to make it correct is you'd have to say he doesn't like me working hard, or he doesn't like that I work hard. So we could add that, and then that allows us to introduce a subordinate clause or dependent clause. Or we can use this kind of quite complicated gerundial phrase, me working hard, which is a nominalization. Nominalization means we take a verb clause and turn it into a noun. And I have a stream on that. So if you do a search for nominalization on the channel, you'll find the stream that we did all about that. And you can get more information about that. Thank you very much for that comment, Free from Cage, who says, thank you, feeling blessed to have learned with a wonderful teacher like you today. That's such a lovely comment. Make sure that you smash that like button and hit subscribe. And Manuel's showing us his culture. Vitelli says, that's historical, the historic past, when the present tense is used to describe events which happened in the past. That's not what I was doing, though. I don't know why everyone keeps saying that. That's not what I'm doing here. I know you can use the present simple to talk about events in the past, and it's the narrative tense, but that's not this. This is a habit. It's just habit. That's it. So that is not the narrative past. Okay? The narrative past would be like, so I see my friend on the street and he comes over and he tells me that there's a problem at work. So I saw it was, notice I can mix it as well. So it was 5 o'clock already and I wanted to go home, to be honest. But anyway, he tells me that we've got to sort it out. So we go back to the office and right. So that's the narrative using present simple for the past. But that's not what I was doing before with the birds. Okay. Thank you very much, Manuel. Celebration. Round of applause for Manuel. Do you mind me asking, or do you mind my asking? Definitely the most common is, do you mind me asking? Do you mind? So with do you mind, there's 2 common ways of following that. We can say, do you mind if plus clause, which is very common. Do you mind if I have a cup of tea? Do you mind if I sit down? Do you mind if I use your loo? Do you mind if I ask a question? Another one would be, do you mind? Actually, that's really the most common. That's it. The other one would be, do you mind? Yeah, plus noun, which is what you've used. And if you're going to use the noun, then do you mind me asking a question would be definitely more common than do you mind my asking of a question. Notice the difference in form as well with me asking and my asking of. What's the meaning of do you mind? Do you mind means, does it bother you? Or even, does it annoy you? Or even, would it annoy you? So do you mind if I smoke? Does it bother you if I smoke? Does it annoy you if I smoke? Would it annoy you if I smoked? Do you mind if I sit down? Does it bother you if I sit down? Does it annoy you if I sit down? Another way of actually translating it, by the way, is saying, can I? For permission. Because what you're asking for when you say, do you mind, is you're asking for permission. So if I say, do you mind if I sit down? I'm actually saying, can I sit down? Do I have your permission to sit down? So it's asking for permission. Would you mind explaining to me why then they migrate? Because it's a 4-year cycle. So I'm talking about their habits over a 4-year cycle. So because it's a 4-year cycle, we still have a series of events, right? So with present simple, we can still use then, right? Like I get up at 6 a.m., then I have a shower. It's just like that. So it's still present simple. And it's not past, it's not narrative in the past. It's just giving you the series of events that happen every day or every frequent period of time. What's the difference between I'd rather and I'd sooner? I'd rather is very common. I'd rather, which means I'd prefer. So these are super common. I'd sooner, much less common. But sounds quite polite. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for joining me today. My name has been Professor Rich. I do hope that you have a lovely weekend and a lovely rest of your week. I hope this class has been interesting for you today, and we will be here again next Saturday, same time, and I might do a stream tomorrow. So if you're around, you might catch that. We'll do a little fun stream tomorrow, just to break things up, or maybe during the week. I don't know. I'm feeling like I just feel like it. It might happen. So watch out for that, folks, and I will catch you on the flippity flip. All right. See you later, everybody. God bless.